welcome to the Voice of the Coast. I am your host, Danika Foley. With me, we have Miss Margie Scoby. Now, she's actually kind of a new face. You probably have never seen her before, but that's okay. Get familiar because she is the president, the founder, and the curator of Finding Your Roots African American Museum. It is located in Houma. Now, you might say Houma, we talk about St. Mary Parish, but Finding Your Roots Museum actually caters to Terrebonne, Lafourche, and St. Mary. Lots of interesting stuff we're going to talk about. First and foremost, thank you very much for being here.
Thank you for having me.
Yes, so the first thing, I would love to learn more about my roots. And I think so many others, you have Ancestry, you have, there's some other ones. Oh, what comes to mind? 23andMe? 23andMe is another, but you yourself have started a genealogy group with a group of ladies in Houma, and it's geared toward African Americans. Now, finding those records are very hard to find. How did you even get this started?
Well, actually, it started a long time ago. My grandmother actually instilled in me my family roots, my family history. And so I've always been interested. And then clearly, many, many years later, I called a meeting, and a group of ladies, along with 3 men, joined me in that meeting. And one of the main thing was, let's get a museum started. And so, of course, we went forward, and it happened. So it's actually been 6 years since we've been in business, but we've been open only 5 years.
Okay. And you've gotten a lot of support from legislators, from the community, is that right?
Yes. Once it got out that, hey, the museum is opening, many people, they came forward. They started giving pictures and artifacts, and so many of the town people were excited.
Yeah. You're going to need a bigger building. I've gone to that museum, and when I tell you wall to wall, the pictures are everywhere. And it was so good to see some faces, familiar faces from St. Mary Parish, particularly the mayor of Patterson. So, that's just one. There are many more. And if you would like to contribute, definitely get involved and contact Margie Scoby. The number is on the screen. It's 985-855-9202. But let's fast forward to this interesting topic, this new exhibit that you have that's coming up shortly.
Yes, it's called Blood, Sweat, and Tears. And it came about with a group of ladies that decided that we should collect the sorrows from the tri-parish areas. And it tells a story, or it's symbolic for what happened with our people in regards to slavery. Okay. And so what we did is we collected as much as possible. And St. Mary Parish is one of our areas we need to really target at this point. So we collected sorrows, and of course, my husband helped to build what we call a slave ship. And upon completing my family research, I did find an interesting piece on Joe Williams. He ties into my family. And so, of course, he was brought in on the slave ship Wanderer. And so it mentioned several parishes, Terrebonne, Lafourche, St. Mary, and also Red River.
Okay.
And so that's why I was so eager to get to this area to learn more about those slaves that came in.
Now, again, this is just kind of a symbolic exhibit. You're collecting soil, so you are going to some of the plantation sites and pulling soils. Now, do you have to get permission? How do you go about trying to collect those, I guess, artifacts at this point?
Oh yeah, absolutely. We get permission as with many people as possible. So what we could do is call, and if that site is still, that site still exists, of course, we contact the owners.
Yeah.
And we ask, is it possible we can get the sorrel? And we only use like a 16-ounce jar.
Yeah.
But yes, that's what we do. And we
so
put it on
take
display.
me to the beginning. Now, you mentioned one of the slave ships that I, for one, am not familiar with. I think many people are familiar with the Clotilda, maybe the Nightingale, but there are actually about 3 others that you and I talked about previously.
Yes, there's the Wanderer for certain. It ties into the tri-parish area because this guy named Charles Lamar illegally purchased some slaves back in 1857, and he brought them into Georgia. But upon being tried, he went on trial for those slaves. He actually requested that the others be sold, and after he was released, he took 40 and he brought them into the tri-parish area.
Okay, and why did he, 1856 you said, right?
1857.
57. Slavery was supposedly abolished by what, 1865? So why was he bringing in more slaves?
Well, he broke the law. He needed money. He had run into bad times. His father was doing other things, and then he decided that he needed money. So
So that's pretty much why he decided to do that and bring those slaves. Continue. So this started in Georgia. We'll pick it up when we come back because I want to know, I want to get right into it, and I don't want to take away from the exhibit because I want folks to definitely go out. But it's definitely intriguing. So come on back right here on the Voice of the Coast with yours truly. Welcome back to the Voice of the Coast. I am your host, Danika Foley. With me, we have Margie Scoby, who's the president, founder, and curator of Finding Your Roots African American Museum. It's located in Houma. However, she's actually putting on a new exhibit at that museum, and it's going to cater to our folks here in St. Mary Parish, and she needs your help. They're out collecting soil, and because it's kind of symbolic of where African Americans, the slaves, actually worked the fields, and it's called Blood, Sweat, and Tears. And it comes from a book called Mud, Sweat, and Tears. We'll get to that shortly. But I want to take it back again to Mr. Charles Lamar and how, in 1857, he brought slaves. And tell me kind of like the timeline, where it happened, where they came from, because this is just interesting to me.
Well, actually, he was docked on the coast of Africa in Ghana, and he allowed the slaves to come in and pretend that they were working. And he actually got them to load in some bananas and coconuts. And upon the last trip to the boat, he actually told them to stay on board. And the reason being is because he said an inspector was coming. They believed him. He locked them in, and he started to sail.
Wow. And
once he got caught by the guys that was, I guess they was patrolling the waters to stop the slave sale. They escorted him to New York, and of course, they allowed him to leave with 400 slaves to Georgia. And that's where many of them were sold. He was charged, and upon going to trial, they disputed it, and of course, they let him go. He only had 40 left, and those 40 ended up in Lafourche, Terrebonne, and St. Mary.
Wow. So that's interesting, the history, just that alone. So he went from, what did he start off with? How many?
He started out with 440,
right.
But 40 died on the voyage here. And of course, they was thrown overboard.
Right.
And the other 400, 300 plus was dispersed.
Right.
And in Georgia.
And then once they got to Louisiana, they were actually from Georgia to Louisiana. They were on a schooner boat, right?
Yes.
And came here. So that's where we now want to know, where's the dispersion? Where did they disperse to? As far as you have, what parts of St. Mary Parish? Because now I'm starting to see like the families, how, where these families are.
They ended up in the Avoca Island, Weeks Island, and also another parish called Red River Parish.
Okay.
And that parish was owned, or not owned, but a guy by the name of Meredith Calhoun actually owned a large portion. He actually had 4 plantations.
Okay. So Avoca Island, I think it's no secret, a lot of folks know that was a very large family, the Singleton family that was located on Avoca Island. So if you are listening, and I'm calling you out, if you're listening and you know this lady or you know the family, you want to be a part of this, do not let history bypass. Do not let it go past you. This is your opportunity to be a part of something great. Give her a call. The number is 985-855-9202. So where does this take you now that you have kind of identified the locations?
Well, one of the things that we want to do is collect the soil. Also, give out a list of names. Do research for people if need be, if they want their family's research done. And of course, we're going to have that as part of the exhibit as well. So when you come into the museum, you'll be able to look at the actual documents of these slaves and the slave owners.
And let's talk a little bit about Mr. Charles Lamar. When you said Lamar, everyone used to say, what's your last name? Because those last names stick out. And I'm like, Lamar. I think there's like a Lamar Expo. There's also Lamar's, like the billboard signs. Is that the same family?
I believe it is. I tried contacting them, and prayerfully, I can get some information. I can hear back from them and find out if that's the actual family. Because what's so ironic, the guy that actually owned the business name is Charles Lamar.
Wow.
And the guy that brought him in name was Charles Lamar.
That is awesome. I hope that you're able to get that information. Now, we're going to talk more about the museum, but right now, the actual exhibit, you're expected to have that up and running by the end of March, about March 27th. And if you would like to get involved, please, one more time with that number, it is 985-855-9202. We're going to go ahead and take a break and come back and talk just about the museum itself, because very interesting. Again, I've already mentioned that our very own Patterson Mayor is located in that museum. We'll talk about maybe some other people that may be represented at the museum that are from St. Mary's Parish. So come on back right here on The Voice of the Coast on KWBJ-TV 22. Welcome back to the Voice of the Coast. Again, I'm your host, Danika Foley. With me, we have Margie Scoby, who is the president, the founder, and curator at Finding Your Roots African American Museum. It's located in Houma. However, the museum caters to the Tri-Parish area, and we're so happy to have you here. And let's talk about the museum itself. I know you said it started about 6 years ago. It's been up and running for about 5 years, and it's kind of it's a nonprofit, right?
Yes,
and what are how do you operate? Where do your funds come from?
Well, actually, we have memberships, people that take up memberships, and then also locals decide to, kind of donate to us.
Right.
So that's pretty much how we do it, along with tourism, the tourists that come in. But of course, we've been at a kind of like a standstill at this point because of the pandemic.
Right. Yeah, and I think everyone has pretty much been affected. I mean, and especially I'm sure you guys, because it's I was gonna say you're gonna need a bigger building, because you go and it's beautiful, but it's like wall to wall with information, chock full of history. And so when you guys first started, you started picking up little pieces here and there, but now you have some really valuable pieces. And let's kind of focus on St. Mary Parish. So besides our Patterson Mayor, you have some other interesting people from this area that are represented in that museum.
Yes, Geronimo Pratt, we do have his military uniform. And also we have a small section with those that went to Sumter Williams High School.
Okay.
And we're trying to collect the other information on the other high school. I'm not sure the name, but there was
one,
another.
I think, in Franklin called Park Avenue.
Park Avenue,
That's
absolutely,
right.
yes.
Look at that. I came here, I did my research. That's awesome, yeah,
so
yeah.
we're trying to also include them in the educational section of it.
Okay. When I went there, you start off, I think, is it 1800s?
Yes.
And it goes to the present time.
Yes.
And of course, many of our kids, and not everyone knows about Frederick Douglass, but Frederick Douglass had some type of influence in the local area, right?
Yes.
Tell me.
From what I understand, I remember they had a meeting here at one time in St. Mary. And if I'm not mistaken, Frederick Douglass actually came to that meeting. So, when you think about people far off, you don't think about your local area.
That's right.
And the connections. But actually, these people actually had connections here, as well as W.E.D. Du Bois. Actually, he wrote letters with some of the greatest doctors to ever practice from the Houma area. He actually wrote, he wrote reference to these doctors. And so when you think about W.D. Du Bois, clearly you don't think there are connections here, but yes.
I mean, he was right up the road. I mean, right there in New Orleans area. I don't see why, but I think it should teach people to value your history and to really do more research. It is definitely more difficult, more challenging for African Americans because those records weren't exactly kept up. So look, I want you to, this is your opportunity. You have the ear of the people, particularly our young people. What would you say? Why do you think this is so important for them to learn it?
I was taught, if you don't know who you are, you don't know where you're going.
That's right.
And so clearly our history is the history of America history. And if you embrace who you are, learn who you are, you take on another sense of pride. And of course, the museum, we offer that. Once you come in, clearly when you come in, you're probably thinking that, oh my God, this is who we are as slaves. But when you leave, you learn how you came out victorious.
Yeah.
And so that's what we do. That's what we do at the museum. We tell the true history of what happened to our people. And basically, hopefully when whomever come, they come and they learn. Matter of fact, there was one story that sticks with me. It's a lady that came in, and she was white, but she had biracial children. And she said those children had an identity crisis. And she wanted to see if we can help her. Well, it was a boy and a girl. And clearly I asked, so what's your race? And they said they didn't want to answer, but then the little boy blurted out, white. Mm-hmm. And his mom said, you see, he don't want to mention that he's part black. And, of course, we took him to the museum and told him everything and kind of, got him to interact. When they left, the little girl and the little boy said, Miss Margie, I have something to tell you, that I am proud to be half black.
Awesome. And on that note, we're going to take one more break, but come on back. I got chills. It's getting good. So keep the stories coming. Y'all come on back right here on The Voice of the Coast. Welcome back to The Voice of the Coast. Again, I am your host, Danika Foley. With me, we have Margie Scoby, who is the founder, president, and curator of Finding Your Roots African American Museum. It's located in Houma. So many wonderful things that have gone on, and I know you guys have been affected by the pandemic. But however, you'll be opening up at the end of March when your exhibit, Blood, Sweat, and Tears, will be available to the public, and that's around March 22nd. It'll be up for about 6 months, right?
Yes.
All right, and I'm excited by it. I mean, how do you feel about it?
I'm anxious. I can't wait to get back open because I love the history of my people and, telling the history to whomever.
Yes.
I love it.
And that's key. I know most times when people say it's an African American museum, oh, it's just for them. It's just for African Americans. But you've had, just about all races come through. Is that about right?
Absolutely.
Yes.
From throughout the country. Mm-hmm. Actually, we have 4 artist friends to come and visit. And actually, we had I had a memo that came in from the museum in Washington, D.C. Actually, the guy there actually sent a note to let me know to let Margie Scoby know I'm watching her, because I got 325 sticky notes that says there's a powerful museum in Houma, Louisiana.
That's it.
So we're
Look,
excited.
I've told my friends, I've told my families, and all it takes, sometimes word of mouth moves a lot quicker than us media folks. So get the word out. If you would like to be involved, if you know someone who's notable and that needs to be honored in a museum, especially if they're from this community, but even though it's for the Tri-Parish area, you've pulled in from other parishes as well, you can give her a call at 985-855-9202. You have to preserve this history. It's not very easily or readily accessible. So you got to do your research. So what is, and I want to ask you this, what is like your most prized artifact over there?
I would think it would 2 pieces, actually. We received some slave shackles from the Whitney plantation.
Really?
And so they are authentic. And so that piece, along with Geronimo Pratt's uniform, that's one of the 2 prize pieces.
Wow. Y'all know Geronimo Pratt right here in St. Mary Parish. So it's, if you're just here, it's just jump and a hop away from St. Mary Parish right there in Houma. The address is 918 Roussel Street. So if you're looking for something to do, make sure to go out. How much is it to visit? There is a fee because it goes towards your operating expenses.
Yes, it's $9 a tour. And the tour, it takes approximately 1.5 hours.
Yes, and it was well worth it. Again, it kind of starts from like the 1800s and it goes all the way to the present time. And I do remember, again, speaking of St. Mary Parish, towards the back, there's about fur trapping. And that talks about the same family you're kind of here to kind of get some information on, and that's the Singletons. They were also located there. So a lot of you may not know that your family is actually on the walls of this wonderful museum. Again, it's called Finding Your Roots African American Museum, 918 Roussel Street in Houma. Again, if you'd like to give Margie Scoby a phone call, give her a call at 985-855-9202. Again, you have the ear of the people. Whatever you like to say right now, we're at the end.
Well, I mean, I would like to invite you out to learn of who you are. And not just the African Americans, but also whomever. It's so good to know that the people that came out of slavery actually thrived and became wonderful people.
And we're more than slavery. It's not just about slavery, right?
Absolutely, absolutely not. I mean, it's it's basically about a people that came in enslaved and became prominent citizens, and still today they're doing wonderful things.
I love it. Thank you so much. Anybody else that's out there, if you'd like to have a seat where Ms. Margie is, just give us a call here at the station, 985-384-6960. As always, make sure to subscribe to us on Facebook. We are KWBJ-TV 22. Thank you very much for coming out here and sharing your information. If you'd like to become a part of that exhibit, again, the number is 985-855-9202. From your friends here, we hope you have a wonderful day, wonderful night, and we'll see you guys next time.